Hello again, welcome back to the News Hour. Let's take a look at some stories across Europe that have caught our eye. With me to review them are writer and presenter Salma El-Wardany and actor and filmmaker Abigail Clay. The ladies join me in the studio. Good to have you with us.
Hello.
Look, we're going to have to start with Brexit again because there has just been so much going on today, including tonight we've got this proroguing, which is not a word I was actually familiar with until last week.
Yeah, you weren't the only one Googling it. I definitely... I'm sorry, what? Yeah.
But it is upon us. And we've had Boris Johnson in Dublin with Leo Varadkar. And this question of the backstop, do you think everyone knew or anyone knew what an issue this was going to be 3 years ago when we were talking about leaving the EU?
Do you know what? I think if anyone knew what any of these issues were going to be, no one would have voted at all in any which way, because there's just so much that has kind of bubbled up to the surface that we had no idea of, that we didn't foresee, things that we didn't probably think through in the right way.
Should we have thought about
I would
these?
like to think our nation's leaders would have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's fair to blame the voters for the choice made, because we didn't have all the information, and that's become so clear now. And I think, you know, Brexit's become the biggest, oh, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it in history, that, you know, something was put forward to people without the correct information, and so now here we are.
I suppose the million-dollar question is, do we think that Boris Johnson is a man with a plan?
Well,
does he have the answer?
That's a big question, isn't it? And do you know what? Is that even relevant? Because even if he is a man with a plan and he comes to Parliament saying this is how it's going to happen, the likelihood is that, just from the way things have gone, the Parliament isn't going to agree with him. Now we have this new bill that's been put in place so that he can't leave the EU without a deal, which is what he really wanted to do. So actually, even if he does have a plan, how well is it going to go?
And that new law is quite astounding, isn't it? Because
absolutely,
Boris Johnson is basically saying, to paraphrase, I'm not going to ask for an extension, and his ministers are looking at ways to try and get round this bill.
Yeah.
But could we face the prospect of Boris Johnson being arrested?
I mean, the irony I find there is that the idea that having a second referendum or anything like it would be undemocratic, whereas the idea now that, you know, we've got politicians talking about how to evade a law, you know, in what world is all of this?
It's astonishing, isn't
it? You know,
it?
yeah, yes.
Well, look, another figure who is very opinionated and is in the centre of the news today is Greta Thunberg, the young Swedish activist.
Yeah.
This is actually quite a distasteful story, though, that there have been threats made against this teenager simply because she's been standing up to politicians.
Yeah.
It's an easy target, though, isn't it? A young girl who's not quite an adult yet is a very easy target for people, especially when she's in such a visible role and she's doing so much and she's having so many conversations that I think a lot of people should have been having. And I wonder if perhaps there's a little bit of guilt happening on behalf of everyone who's kind of lashing out, because they're kind of like...
What kind of person lashes out as someone who is actually telling it like it is? I don't quite understand that.
But bear in mind, we still live in a time where people don't think climate change is a thing, and they think that it's not happening and that there's no problem. So actually, here's a young girl in their eyes who's actually really disruptive and is causing problems and gaining a lot of traction and saying things that she shouldn't, right? If climate change isn't a thing.
Yeah, and I think even if you agree that it is, I think the guilt is a very strong argument that people, you know, to have a 16-year-old, you know, she does say things in a very straightforward way and she doesn't pull punches. So to be told that you're doing something wrong by a 16-year-old girl who actually has no experience of going out and living an adult life, you know.
What do you think about the whole campaign, the missing classes on Friday? Because that got quite a lot of criticism for basically, look, you're just skipping school.
Yeah, well, my personal opinion is that anything that's going to positively impact the climate change debate is a good thing, because I agree that we're in a position of crisis and we need to be doing something about it. So although there are pros and cons to many of the ways that different people and groups are fighting this current climate, as it were, I think just to have everyone talking about it is a good thing.
And that brings us neatly on to the issue of cars. Cars, of course, one of the biggest polluters, and apparently massive international car show going on in Frankfurt, and a load of car makers haven't turned up.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think a lot of car makers don't have the answers. Again, I think this goes back to not having the answers for...
Because there's a lot of environmental protests. Is that one of the reasons they've stayed away? Because they can't...
Yeah, and because they haven't kind of made moves to make their cars more environmentally friendly or to combat climate change or put enough resource or money into creating electric cars.
There are electric cars, though. I mean, there are cars you can buy which are arguably better for the environment. There's questions about charging the battery, etc.
Some people can buy them. They're not made, they haven't been made a commodity that everyone can do easily. And to make these big changes in their lives, people need incentives and encouragement to make that decision. And, you know, for instance, my local petrol station was completely revamped recently, and there are no electric charging points.
That's a really good point, because everyone's saying, you know, we should move on to electric cars, but actually trying to find the facilities to make that easy is that actually quite
The government has to put these things in place so that we can make these changes.
And if you look at a car park, there's loads of car park spaces and maybe two
or three
that have a charger.
Yeah. I think we're talking about it in really big terms because we think it's the right thing to do, and that's great, but actually logistically and our infrastructure doesn't support that. And I have a car that I bought in 2017 that's diesel, and now suddenly I can't drive it in London. I'm having an awful time trying to sell it. I know that the manufacturers kind of knew it was coming in when they sold it to me. So I can understand those people out there who are
my
furious.
husband bought a diesel car, and I told him this was a big problem.
Where were you when I was buying my car?
And now they're going to stop making them in a few years' time. So who's going to buy a diesel car?
No one wants to buy it. And now I'm stuck with it. And I kind of feel quite annoyed at the government that they've put this tax in, which arguably works towards climate change. And yes, I'm glad that they've done it, put in ultra-low emission zones. But actually, you've done nothing to support all the people that then have to transition out of those cars, and who are people who come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, because actually all the people who can afford to pay the tax for diesel cars and those cars that don't meet the new ultra-low emission zones, well, they'll just keep paying it, won't they?
Let's move on to dogs. Not to use them to drive us around, but a bit of a sad story. In Norway, a mystery sickness killing at least 25 dogs in Norway. I haven't read into this too much. Do we know what this disease is?
No, unfortunately, that's the point, is so that, you know, dog shows are being cancelled all over the country in Norway, and everyone's keeping their dogs inside, and I imagine a lot of dogs are probably very unsettled by...
And it's not poison, it's not...
They don't know what it is, so there was initially worry about dog food, that maybe there was a problem there. Or...
They're all from different parts of the country and they've eaten different things, right?
Different breeds?
Yeah. So maybe it's a virus, so that's actually the problem, is that they don't know what's happening, so that must be very scary when something...
But only Norway so far?
So far.
Norway and Sweden.
Norway and
Sweden. Currently, but it hasn't spread, but who knows?
And last but not least, this is a really interesting story, and I really wish I could do this. Luxury tourism. Apparently, Spanish companies catering to high net worth travellers. What kind of stuff can you get on a luxury trip then? What's this about?
You can go around museums when they're completely empty, so that they keep the museum open specifically just for you. I think it costs like $4,500.
Wow.
Just to spend like 20 minutes in a museum, so you can have it all free and empty without the crowds. Well, if you were trying to look at the Mona Lisa in the Louvre, I would imagine it would be worth it, because actually you can't get close to that thing.
That's true.
I think there's one that has dinner with a member of the royal family.
Yes, my personal favourite as a vegetarian is the extremely expensive ham carving workshop that you can have with some sort of
Michelin chef.
Ham connoisseur.
So luxury travel, this is the new thing, is it? Trying to cater to really rich people.
Yes, and it does...
Aren't they already catered to? I mean,
apparently not enough. And it does sound ridiculous, and there's part of me that kind of thinks this is absurd. But I remember reading there's one hotel who caters to these high net worth individuals, and part of the luxury fee is a stylist to just do your hair and makeup every morning. And I kind of thought, oh, that'd be really good, actually. It'd be helpful.
There's at the Westin Palace Hotel, apparently, should anyone be interested in booking this, 1 week in its royal suite costs €18,000. The price covers picking the guest up in a private jet, of course. How else would you travel? Bringing them to the hotel, dinner at a 2-starred Michelin restaurant, and the services of a stylist who will do all their hair and makeup. I mean, for that price, I think we should all go and spend maybe 3 weeks there.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah, we could go together.
Yeah, let's call it research.
Yes.
But what's the idea of this? That is it only in Spain? I mean, apparently Madrid is going to become the go-to destination.
Yeah, so it's Madrid to start with because it's that's sort of where the cards are lay, that's going to be the next big thing to go to. But if it's successful, of course, why wouldn't it happen worldwide?
Yeah, but to be fair,
Tokyo.
it's already been happening in Dubai for years. They have, you know, one of the world's only 7-star hotels that comes with a Rolls Royce when you stay in it. Dubai is all about luxury and high net worth individuals going and having a good time. So I think it's already happening in certain places. And I think as travel has risen and globalization has kind of got bigger and we've all kind of moved across borders and countries more freely, you know, high net worth individuals want to do that and they want to do it in a lifestyle they're accustomed to, I guess.
And obviously, you know, it's so stressful being so rich that
Really?
these people obviously need a really good holiday. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Ladies, thank you very much indeed for joining.
you for
Great
having
to
us.
speak
Having
with
me.
you. Thank you very much indeed, Salma and Abigail.
Thank you.